Hello and welcome to the English Matura Express, the express to your success. Today we have two demonstration exams for you. Hello and welcome back. My name is Maria, and as I've already said to you, we have two demonstration exams for you about the topics media and communication. So let's start with the first one, which is already behind me. It's about news media and technology. So first of all, of course, there is the introduction. What a surprise. There you will be asked some questions about yourself, so about your past, about your plans for the future, and so on. So be aware of the tenses and the usage of the correct tenses. Then task number 1, types of news media. So what's the situation? You work in the technology department of a well-known newspaper. You have been asked to hold a presentation in front of a group of interested people, so the examiners, about the different forms of news media nowadays. There are also 3 bullet points. So what is news media? So just try to define it. So what is it? Then different types of news media and their pros and cons. So give some examples and talk about the positive and the negative aspects of each. And then how news media best be used. Now, here it is, with modern means of technology. So, for example, a mobile phone. So, can we read the news on our mobile phones? We will see. And then there is the task 2, the dialogue, and it's about digital news. And there is a text for you. Again, here you have the link. So here it is. So you can read it. It's key trends in social and digital news media. So let's talk about some trends and probably the future of it. Good. And then there's the follow-up discussion, which is most of the time just a question about media and communication. So a more general one, or you are asked to ask a question. So that's about it. Good. So I think, Chris, when you are ready, I think we can start.
Yes.
Here you are.
I hope everyone can hear me somehow.
I hope so too.
Yes, I hope so. Yes, I'm ready.
Otherwise, shall I just put the microphone in the middle?
I think it's fine.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have to speak up a little bit. Good. So, hi. Can you please introduce yourself?
Yes, of course. My name is Luke, and I worked as a magician in the past, so I didn't do any apprenticeship. Then I started working as a mechanic, actually, so I did my apprenticeship, and then I decided to do the A-levels because I want to study biology.
Okay, so why did you stop being a magician? I mean, it seems like an interesting job, isn't it?
Yeah, because I grew up in a circus, actually.
Ah, okay, that's exciting. But now you want to study biology,
Yes.
so that's why you need the A-levels. Okay, good. So let's move on to task number 1. So whenever you're ready, please deliver your speech.
Yes, of course. Dear ladies and gentlemen, today's topic is all about mass and news media, especially news media. So, to start off, I'm gonna explain what news media is, different types of news media, and pros and cons, and how news media can best be used with modern means of technology. So, news media basically involves every media that is used to publish or to publish news, basically. For example, if there is a radio broadcast of
Ö3.
any politician.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
The type or form of news media that is used, in this case, is radio. So there's also TV is just a type of news media, or of course newspapers, billboards somehow can be, but yeah, not really can be a type of news media, but not a common one. Maybe podcasts, some sort of there are podcasts from BBC, I think, that treat the current topics in politics and so on. And yeah, that's all about what news media is. So all that we use are all media that help us to spread news. Different types of news media, I've already touched upon this. So there is, of course, radio, there is TV, there is advertisements somehow, maybe, but not really. Podcasts, of course, newspapers, and of course there is the digital side to it. There is maybe applications that you can download and you get the latest news paper on your phone or tablet or something like this. Pros, of course, speaking about the different types, radio I think is really easy to kind of access because everyone can access it. Newspaper basically too, but then people have to read. TV, of course, is also very common, but so in terms of accessibility and news media in general, that would be a con, so to say, a pro, and a con would be that it is hard to differentiate between different news media, especially when it comes to different channels, different stations, actually, TV stations or radio stations that are financed with the help of politicians or lobbyists and so on. That's a con, I'd say. The next thing I'm going to talk about is technology and news media. Of course, it is very helpful to have some sort of an app on the mobile phone, but I think it shouldn't be overused. So there are people that kind of read newspaper every day, and you get a lot of information, but you can't distinguish which information is valuable or not. So I think it's a kind of a too much, actually. So it is helpful, and it should be used. It can be used. Of course, there is something like what's it called? I think there is a WhatsApp service with a lot of newspapers that send you text message for the latest news or for the latest papers, or like there are just general like really urgent things that happen in politics. Maybe you get a message that something happened in Austria, mostly in term and mostly about politics in Austria. Yes.
Thank you. So now let's move on to task number 2, which is about digital news. So key trends in social and digital news media. So you touched upon WhatsApp as a news service. So can you just tell me something about these new trends? So what do we have?
Yeah, as I've already told or touched upon WhatsApp, I know a lot of people that actually use this service. So you can basically send your number to, or send a message, I think, to a number that is from any newspaper you want.
Okay.
So
and then what happens? They send what?
They then when you send them a message, they know that you want to have the latest news every day, or I don't know on which base it is actually, and they send you a WhatsApp message with the latest news, and it's basically, I think there is always the link to it, to their website somehow, and you can just click on it and then you have the full article.
The full article.
Yeah. Okay. So I think it's a really good advertisement strategy from newspapers, and people always want to be up to date with everything. So if something happened in Russia, if some guy found a stone on the street, everyone would know.
Okay, so do you think it's a good device, or do you think there are also some drawbacks to it?
To a certain degree, I think it's helpful, especially when you have a job that is focused on the politics or has to do with politics, day-to-day politics, and you really have to be up to date. But I think as a private person, at least my point of view, it's very annoying for me. I haven't had any services like that, but I know it from friends.
It's probably it's a lot, and you have to read through all of them, and that's probably
That's I think the major con, and of course they have your data since you
send them your mobile phone.
Yeah, and your conversation is normally with WhatsApp and so on.
Yeah. So do you think that, in times of social and digital news, do you think that the newspapers, the classic ones, will extinguish in the near future? Or do you think so that all people want to have their news on their mobile phone?
I think that's a very widely discussed topic.
I mean, wouldn't it be good for our environment? I mean,
yes.
no trees have to be cut down.
Of course. But it's the same discussion with books. So there are a lot of people that like to read books, actual books, to have the smell, to kind of have the feeling of it, holding a book. And I think the same goes with newspapers. For me, for example, I don't like to read on-screen articles. That's just something that my eyes get really tired, and it's like, no, nothing for me. I really like to have the paper issue. But of course, if there are small articles, I just take my phone and just read it, of course. So, of course, there are a lot, especially thinking about the environment, there are pros that are for, or are pros that help us to get rid of paper usage, but of course paper is easy to recycle, I think.
So, but I mean there is also the big benefit of, okay, when you get it online, that it's really fast. I mean, when it happens, you don't have to wait for someone to write it, print it, and send it to you. And type it, yeah.
But you also have to type it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, of course, the online thing it's super fast. Especially when we look at news media, especially if you watched any news media program in Austria. Normally after election or on election day, actually 3 hours, no, 2 hours later actually, when every when you can't vote anymore, the first votes are actually, or the first results are actually there.
Yeah.
That's super fast actually, I'd say, and that of course happens with a lot of digital, because also with the internet and so on, because people in Innsbruck can't really send them to Vienna and that fast. So, and with the help of the internet, it's possible. Yes,
That's right. So what do you do to stay informed?
I basically use social media actually.
Mm-hmm.
So the
So you follow some news sites?
yeah,
and
news broadcasting service and so on,
Mm-hmm.
that I follow or like, depends on the social media platform. And then I kind of stay up to date with it. So there are really cool formats nowadays, I think. So you don't really need a TV. And sometimes, of course, just reading an article on a newspaper, whatever, which. So.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So good.
Sorry.
So the introduction was fine, very good. Then we had the monologue. He gave a really good introduction, and so because that's also very important to start your monologue, because it is a speech. So don't just start with the bullet points. Don't forget about an introduction, a greeting, and he did all of that. So hello, my name is, and I want to talk about, which is just basic for a speech or for a presentation. So don't forget about that. Then he talked about what news media is. He was able to give a definition, and he also gave many examples. He elaborated on them in the second bullet point. And what I found was quite interesting was this pro of accessibility. Accessibility, I think that's very good to mention, especially, for example, that you can listen to the radio when you are not able to read. I mean, there are some people who can't read. So it's accessible for all people. Of course, if they have a radio or some computers that can play that. And he also talked about the very deep topic, which I also liked, about lobbies and finances. So who finances the newspaper, and so that's always good to know. So who writes it? So what do I read? So yeah. And number 3, how news media can be best used. He talked about WhatsApp, which is also quite interesting. I don't know if you know it or if you have the services on your phone, but maybe you can have a look at it so you can see, okay, what was he talking about, in case you don't know. Maybe one little thing he talked about, and now I said it too, the next thing, maybe try to avoid the word thing or stuff in your monologue. So maybe say like the next aspect or the next point I'm going to talk about. Sounds a little bit better. But anyhow, it was very fine. The dialogue as well, I have no notes, so that means we had a nice discussion. We also talked about, again, we talked about WhatsApp, and also about his preferences. That's something that happens a lot of times, so that you are asked, okay, so how do you stay informed? Or what do you do to save the environment? So think about that. Good. So that's about it with the first demonstration exam, but no, we don't want to save that. So now let's move on to the next one, which is, again, about media and communication. But now it's about mass media. So the introduction, I think we will skip that. Then we have task 1 about mass media. So who are you? You are a communication manager at a big international company. you have been asked to hold a talk in front of your colleagues about the importance of mass media and communication nowadays. So, what is mass media? Again, what is it? Types of mass media. So, what are some examples of it, and how do they work? And the third one is the benefits and drawbacks of mass media. So that's about it. So that's about mass media. And then we have the second task, the dialogue about social media marketing. There we have the text, the importance of social media marketing. So now it's also about media, but it's also about marketing, advertising. So I think that's also a really interesting topic. And here again, here we have the link to the article. Read it and have fun reading it. And yeah, so but now I think we are ready for the second exam. Are you ready, Chris?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, it's okay. Yeah, we skipped the introduction, I'd say, and you can start with the monologue whenever you are ready to start.
Of course. Dear ladies and gentlemen, today we're gonna talk about mass media.
Sorry.
Before I start with my talk, I'd like to tell you what I'm gonna talk about. I'm gonna talk about the definition of mass media, then I'm gonna talk about the types of mass media, and the benefits and drawbacks of mass media. So, at first, what is mass media? Of course, mass media is every type of media that is used on a regular basis or can be used in a more especially to have used to for a bigger audience. Yes. So mass media, for example, is TV. Is a quite antiquated mass media, but of course there is also a super old type of mass media, which is the newspaper. Radio is quite old, so those are the antiquated ones. And then, of course, we have podcasts, we have social media, which is quite important nowadays. We have digital media, so apps, and online media. And we have billboards, which is also antiquated but used nowadays quite frequently. We have also cinema type of mass media. Yeah. Okay, so benefits and drawbacks of mass media, of course, is that you can, as a company, you can reach a lot of people with the help. Even nowadays, with the help of the radio, you can reach a lot of people. With social media, you can do the same, even a greater amount. You can reach just a greater amount of people, and it is, to some extent, it is for free. Drawbacks, I'd say it is difficult to differentiate for the customer or the consumer which information, be it advertisement or news or sports, which information is really necessary for me. Of course, that's very subjective. But I think nowadays people tend to think they really have to know everything. They really have to own everything. That's, of course, through advertisement. I think that's quite dangerous, and it is drawback of mass media. Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you. So now let's move on to the dialogue, social media marketing. So what is social media marketing? So how does it work?
So social media marketing basically is nowadays a big element of any marketing company or a marketing company that works with other companies to market the product or to help them. It's like a tool basically to help realizing different marketing strategies.
So why is it used so often? So why don't they just put advertisements on TV like they used to? So what do you think, what are some benefits of social media marketing?
I think at first, as I've already told beforehand, it's that you can reach a lot of people. So there are just on different social media platforms, there is the possibility for a company, or in this case for a marketing company, to reach more people than with radio, for example. So normally with radio you can only reach people in different countries. So in Austria, for example. Of course, there can be, if there are bigger brands.
Yeah, that's
and so on.
right. Yeah.
But with social media, you can do just reach more people. You can, and this of course leads to potential customers.
So, and how does it work? So how do they advertise products on social media?
Yeah.
What are some strategies?
Basically, there are strategies. Of course, there you can pay for advertisement or ads, basically. But marketing is more the strategy behind how can one gain followers, likes, whatever, and how can a business gain interaction with people. And this leads, of course, to a bigger I lost the thread. It leads basically I can't tell it. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
That you can sell more products.
Okay.
That I wanted. Yeah. Normally, that's the intention. So.
Don't you think that social media marketing, so it sounds good and so you can reach a big audience and you can sell a lot of products, but don't you think that it kind of destroys social media, because then it's all about buying and
Yeah, of course the initial intention wasn't that companies or marketing companies use it for their customers to kind of put out the products or kind of exhibit the products on a platform that has, I don't know how many users, and it's some sort of course destroys it, especially if you think about advertisements that are systematically put or systematically kind of programmed. You can choose on, for example, if you want to use advertisement, you can choose in which region or which country this appears. So if the user is from Switzerland and the advertisement is adjusted to Switzerland, you will see it on your profile. And of course you're tracked on the internet, but it's also a helpful tool for marketing companies. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So, oh, here I am.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're still here. Good. So again, good start. So he told us who he is and what the topic of his presentation is going to be. So do that. Then he talks about mass media, types of mass media. He gave a lot of examples, but I think it's not really a difficult topic because we all know we all know something about media. I mean, we have a TV or a computer, a radio. We know what that is. So maybe just name them, but also try maybe to talk about, okay, how do they work? So why is TV mass media? So yeah, because a TV can reach a big audience, and that's why. And what about the TV? Is it still popular or not? So he did that. So he talked about antiquated types of mass media, and then he also went on to new types of mass media like social media, so the internet. And then the last one was the benefits and drawbacks of mass media. Here he talks about mainly about advertising, which I think is a very interesting aspect when talking about media, because you can also talk in this sense about manipulative strategies. I know it's a topic of advertising, but I think it kind of goes hand in hand. So probably that's also a good thing to mention here. Good. But he did that really well. And then we had a dialogue. Again, I have not really a lot of notes because I can't really handle this pen. I don't know. But here I have region and tract. I think that's a very important point he mentioned. So, of course, social media, they use your data, and so they can send you systematically chosen advertisements for you. So maybe if you live in a warm region, you get I don't know, advertisements for bikinis. That was a stupid example, but you know what I mean. So they have a lot of data from you, and so they can, of course, make it more personal. So the advertisements that you see, which is good for them, because when they know you, they know what you want or what you are likely to like. So what you buy, what you bought, and what you will buy in the future. So that's, I think, a very interesting thing to think about and also to read about. So read the articles. I think they are really helpful. And if you have any questions about the topic or about these two demonstration exams, how they work, but I think now you know how they work. So we have this introduction, monologue, dialogue, follow-up question. It's always the same, but still have a look at it. Try to answer the questions for yourself. And yeah, that's about it. If there are any questions, we are happy to answer them. And we see us next week. Bye-bye, and thanks for watching.